In the last two videos, we've talked about how to design and create an approval and routing workflow. But in those videos, we really were talking about a proof of concept model, a workflow that will take a document, send out an approval request, and then take the answer and move the document into either an approved or rejected folder, which is great, but it's not rugged and it's not reliable. So let's take a look at what else we can do with this workflow to make it truly industrial strength. The first step is to create a more reliable and robust workflow where you use file locking, error checking, and error handling to make sure that what you asked to happen did happen. You can also encourage action on the part of the approver by adding reminders, task escalation, and delegation, and make sure that the email asking for approval doesn't get lost in a full inbox or left behind when the person's on vacation. You can also quickly add multiple reviewers by copying and pasting the approval action in your workflow. These can be in parallel, where you need both approvals before you move on, or in series, where you first need one approval and then a second. And you can also add automatic updates to a tracking system such as Salesforce, where the document approval takes you to a next step in a process. Let's take a moment and look at how you make a more reliable and robust workflow. Assumptions are risky in a business environment, so you have to be careful. If the connection didn't open, you need to handle the errors around that. You can't just charge ahead with the workflow. You have to verify and handle errors in the connection. Another problem is that you may approve one version of the document only to move a second version because of an unknown update. The solution to this one is to lock with the start of the process and only unlock it at the end. The move command has two common failure modes. The first is it may flat out fail, in which case you need to handle that because your next process is going to be looking for a document that never got transferred to the final folder. Or the move file command may be happening but stuck in a queue, so that when another action tries to access the file, it's not there yet. You can resolve this by using pauses, batches, and commits to verify the file location before continuing with the workflow. Not every request for approval is met with immediate response. Sometimes the approver's email folder is full. Sometimes they're on vacation. Sometimes they're not the right person and you really need to have approval requests sent to a different person. Well, you can do that in Nintex Workflow Cloud because you can configure reminders so that the request for approval gets bumped to the top of a person's inbox. If the approver doesn't reply in time, say they're on vacation or out sick, you can use task escalation to send that approval request on to the approver's manager or their peer, therefore bringing a new player into the system. You can also use delegation by the approver so that a more appropriate person handles the approval. A third area where you can bring your workflow up to the next level is to add updates to a tracking system. For example, if this is a contract approval request, it will probably take the sales process to the next level. So it makes sense to add a step after the file approved notification where you connect to Salesforce and you change the status of that sale. This avoids another frequent manual breakdown where the contract is approved, people are notified, but the tracking system has fallen behind the approval process. This also allows our approval and routing workflow to trigger additional workflows. For advertising and marketing, this might be a publishing workflow. For contracting, it might be to start the process of implementation. And for logistics and manufacturing, it might be the fulfillment and shipping order. The point is that this workflow is not necessarily a standalone item. By taking this workflow to the next level, you create an integral part of a much larger process.